Something just doesn't feel the same anymore after he left. I mean, the season's over, and I've got no reason to wear this. He's not even on the Hawks anymore. If only I had a Rangers jersey. Oh wait, I do.
Hawks win!
This time I actually stayed awake through the entire thing.
Yes! That's hockey, baby!
And it does quite annoy me that he got a goal in this game. And Jonathan Toews does Jonathan Toews things.
Yes!
He gets it to Toews and Toews scores the Hawks' first goal. And Stalock just does. This genuinely felt like old school Blackhawks hockey. Man, I don't know how Steve Dangle does that. This is literally my first time wearing this jersey. And I've just been waiting. The moment they announced that they were selling these jerseys on Twitter, the New York Rangers, I instantly went and bought one, and it took maybe a little over a month to deliver. But, you know, it fits nice. It's certainly weird seeing Kane's, name on the back of a blue jersey, or even a jersey that ain't the Hawks, but, I mean, I've still got the tags on here. Here's a old Christmas gift. Oh, okay, that just went somewhere down the jersey. But let me stand up and show you it in all its glory. Look at that. Kaner on the back. It's something about it. It actually fits. I kind of like it, which is part of the reason why I'm doing this. So, since I knew the Blackhawks weren't going to be making the playoffs this year, when Kane got traded to the Rangers, one of my first thoughts was that, I'm kind of upset I didn't continue making videos on every single Blackhawks game this year. But since, at least one Blackhawk, Patrick Kane, is going to be in the playoffs, I figured I might as well do a series on every single game that Patrick Kane plays in the playoffs, and I react to it. Now, unfortunately, I didn't actually get to see this game, even though I am subscribed to ESPN Plus. I pay $100 a year for that, but for whatever reason, ESPN Plus does not carry the playoffs. I will have to find out somehow tomorrow after work how I can get a service provider in order to watch the Rangers game. And I was really upset that I didn't get to see last night's Rangers game. I mean, for you guys, it'll be 2 nights ago because this will be coming out the day of Game 2 between the Rangers and Devils. But I do at least know that Kane got a point. I saw that he got a secondary assist on the Chris Kreider goal, I do believe. Kreider, I think, had 2 goals in that game. I don't think in this video, at least this first one, I'm going to be going over how the entire game went. This is just going to be me talking about the fact that, I've got the jersey. I'm going to be doing a video on every single thing. But I'll do my best to give a game overview just based off of the small bits of the recap that I saw from Sportsnet. And actually, when I watched that, I watched Johnny Superbman 2BC Productions on Twitch. I don't know if any of you know who he is, but I've watched him for years now, and he was doing a GM mode, I think, or something today or yesterday, and he just watched the recap of the game, and he was just talking about how the Rangers better have Kane on the #1 power play because he's been proven to, dominate in that, and that's, I believe, where he got his 1 point. So from what I understand, this Rangers series, the Rangers finished 3rd in, I think it's the Metro Division, behind the New Jersey Devils. And if you weren't aware, the New Jersey Devils are a very young team. They just came out of nowhere this year. Everyone expected them to be pretty competitive, but they did not expect them to have as good a season as they did. It was between them and Boston for the best team in the league for the first 30% of the season this year, and then they kind of tapered off near the end. Kind of towards the middle, they were a bit mediocre, and then they started to get really, really good again near the end, which is why they ended up in 2nd place in their division behind the Carolina Hurricanes. But New York was pretty good throughout the entire season, and even though they weren't winning games all the time near the end of this year, from what I was hearing, the Rangers were still playing ridiculously good hockey, and they were playing really good hockey up and down the lineup. And from just checking the scores as the season was going on near the end, I was noticing that their third line of Filipino, Capocacco, and Alexis Lafreniere were killing it. I think most of their scoring, from what I understand, was coming from those three. And Kane kind of started off pretty slow with the Rangers, but I think he started to pick it up near the end because I think he ended up with 12 points in 19 games or something like that. Acquiring Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko helps a lot because those guys are proven in the playoffs, even though the last time both of those guys won was quite a while ago. But between the two of them, there are 4 cups won. So they have played a lot of playoff games, a lot against each other actually, and they know how to win. And Tarasenko showed in this game because I do believe he scored the first goal for the New York Rangers. And if I'm wrong, it's because I haven't checked the scorecard in a couple of days. So don't get mad. But the Rangers' blue line is really massive. They are huge monsters. And whether it's from offensive skill to just destroying you in their own end of the ice behind the net, the Rangers just have a really complete decor that I don't think the New Jersey Devils have. Even their best defensive defensemen in their top 6 are not necessarily the most physical. It's really the Rangers' power play, from what I understand, that won them this game, and also probably partially the New Jersey Devils' inability to keep themselves out of the penalty box, because when I watched that replay, it seemed like the Rangers were on the power play a whole lot, which you just cannot do against the Rangers. But not only do the Rangers have a much more physical back end than the Devils, their forward core is way more physical, even if you have Patrick Kane in that top 6. Chris Kreider is a monster. He is a destroyer of worlds. And then there's Mika Zibanejad, who I don't think is a destroyer of worlds, but he is a big dude, and if he wants to, he's going to rock your shit. Then Vladimir Tarasenko, he's a skilled guy. He's got a hell of a shot, but he is a big motherfucker, and he will rock your shit too. And then there's Barclay Goodrow, who has been proven to be an excellent playoff performer with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and he is hard as nails too. And then obviously there's a couple other guys that I don't really remember or know of who are on the Rangers currently that play a hard game too. I think the kid line probably plays a pretty hard game too, although I'd say out of all their lines, they probably have the weakest or are the weakest in terms of just how physical they probably are. I know VC has become a very good player just in general for the Rangers, and at one point was doing pretty well in their top 6, but now he's on the 4th line, and I do believe he scored a goal in this game too, and he's a hard-nosed player too. And from what I understand, one of the few hard-nosed players on the New Jersey Devils is Yegor Sharangovich, who I think plays in their top 9 at least, maybe even in their top 6. But like that's kind of it, and they just rely on really good skill, really good fast skilled plays to score their goals. And that was exposed in this game by the Rangers, I'd assume, because they beat the New Jersey Devils 5-1, and the only person who scored for the Devils was Jack Hughes on a penalty shot, and from what I heard in the live stream was that Jack Hughes is the only guy who seemingly looked like he knew how to play hockey in that game. And I watched the highlights, and at the very end of that game, Jack looked like he genuinely was the only person out there trying to win them that game. But I guess you can't necessarily count the Devils out of this playoff series because they do have some playoff performers of past. And when I say that, I only really know of Andre Palat, because I know he's been proven, but I don't think he can carry the workload all by himself. You know, they're a young team. Eventually, their players are going to prove themselves in the playoffs, and even if they don't win in this year, they should have a better chance of winning next year, assuming they do good things in the offseason. But now that we're kind of done talking about the game, talking about both teams really, I would kind of like to go over how I think this playoffs is going to go. And right now in this series, I personally believe that the New York Rangers are going to win. And I think most people agree, even though they finished one spot below the Devils in the standings. And as for the other series in the Metro Division, I think that the Hurricanes are going to win, which is probably easy for me to say since they're already 2-0 up in their series right now. But I kind of thought that was going to happen anyways. Part of me was hoping that the Islanders would win just because I love the Isles. I kind of like New York teams, but the Isles, there's just something about their defensemen that really gets me going because I love defensemen who sell their lives to block shots, which is why I love Nicholas Hjalmarsson so much. And that's what the Isles defensemen do every game. So I see the Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes coming out of the Metro, and in the Atlantic, I hope the Toronto Maple Leafs beating the Tampa Bay Lightning. And the only reason I hope for that is because of the draft position Chicago would be in if Toronto wins. And then, this is kind of a hot take, and I know Boston is a destroyer of worlds. The whole team is a destroyer of worlds. I hope the Florida Panthers win. And it's because Matthew Tkachuk's father, Keith Tkachuk, said near the end of the season that he was not too happy with either of his sons, how they've played so far in how they had played so far in that regular season. And he said that they were playing too soft. Both their teams were playing too soft. And you know what happened right after? Well, Brady Tkachuk did fucking nothing. And Matthew Tkachuk decided he was going to carry his team. And he was going to motivate the rest of his team to play hard-nosed hockey and win almost every single game because they wanted to get to the playoffs. They were probably one of the most hungry teams to end the season to get into these playoffs than any other team. I can't say I saw another team that really wanted it more than Florida. And based on tonight's result of the Panthers beating the Bruins 6-3, I don't think I'm too, delusional for thinking that the Panthers could win this series. So for me, I'm hoping it's going to be Panthers versus the Maple Leafs, not only because of the fact that I like the Panthers and I like the Leafs, but I also would like to see the Leafs play anybody other than Boston or Tampa. And then, now we go to the Central Division. I think that the Wild are going to out the Dallas Stars because I kind of want Ryan Hartman to go pretty far. And even though I love Max Domi, I don't like the Dallas Stars, so I'd rather the Wild continue on in the second round. And then again, I see another upset coming here. I think the Seattle Kraken are going to beat the Colorado Avalanche. I have thought this for the past several weeks. I have always thought for a while now, at least a month or two, that the Seattle Kraken are going to beat whoever they go up against in the playoffs. There's so much depth on that team. You can say that they don't have a star on their team, but Vince Dunn and Jared McCann exist. And they have some of the most 20 goal scorers on any other team in the league. I think, honestly, they might have the most 20 goal scorers in one lineup in the entire NHL. So their depth is insane. And that's why I think they're going to beat the Colorado Avalanche, who are going through some injuries and then might lose Gabriel Landeskog for the rest of his career. And then there's the LA Kings versus the Edmonton Oilers, which is probably the best series in hockey right now. After a 4-3 overtime win by the Kings in a thriller of a game, right now, from what I understand, last I checked, the game was tied 2-2 between the Kings and Oilers, and this series could go to 7, and I personally think Edmonton's going to come out on top after 7 games. And then there's Winnipeg versus Vegas. And if you asked me like a month and a half, 2 months ago, maybe even just a month ago, who I thought was going to win this series, if you told me Winnipeg was going to face off against Vegas, I'd have told you Vegas was going to win that series. But Winnipeg has just, decided that they don't give a shit about who Vegas has in their lineup, and they don't give a shit that they were terrible for most of this year, except for the beginning and the end. They just seem like they're hungry and they really want to win, and I can't explain it. So I think Winnipeg is going to win that series, probably in 6. And I think Edmonton's going to win in 7. I think Seattle's going to win in 6, and I think Minnesota's going to win in 7. And then I didn't do this for the Eastern Conference, but I think the Rangers win in 5, the Carolina Hurricanes win in 5. I think that the Toronto Maple Leafs win in 7, and I think that the Florida Panthers win in 6. And I am just so excited to see Kane back in these playoffs. He really freaking deserves it, and he really deserves another chance at a Stanley Cup. And I really, really hope he scores in tomorrow's game, and I hope I get to see it. And with that being said, I hope you guys liked this video, and if you really liked it, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And I will see you guys in the next video. Game 2. It's coming up tomorrow. or tonight, tomorrow, tonight, same thing. See you guys.